native of Sudbury, Ontario, Reg Plummer first discovered field hockey as a teen when his family lived in Australia. Upon his return to Canada, he promptly fell in love with the sport and the Canadian community.
When I was about 16 or 17, and a club had just formed in Ottawa, and it was all these fellows who were in their mid-20s, late 20s, 30s, 40s, and they were from all over, as you can imagine. Field hockey back in those days was very much an immigrant sport, so these guys were from Holland and Germany and India and Pakistan and Kenya and Uganda and you name it. It was a little UN that we played with, and I discovered it was just so much fun. Those guys made a fuss over me, and they took me everywhere and fed me beer, and I had such a lot of fun. A big part of field hockey for me at this age particularly wasn't so much winning or losing or even my own skill, although that matters to you a little bit, or ambitions to make the national team or any of that kind of thing.
Plummer's skill and effort paid off, and by the mid-70s, he had become a mainstay on the Canadian national team. At this point, Canada's men's team was starting to tour internationally more often and participate in major international competitions. Plummer recollects fondly of his international experience, highlighting the Montreal Olympics in 1976.
I think that was a headline in one of the Montreal papers, no worse than AIDS. Well, I mean, come on. We were struggling to, we would be struggling to qualify for the Olympics, let alone, come in the top 8. We just didn't have realistic expectations about where we were and our experience level compared to the other teams. We were good though. I don't want to make out that we hadn't progressed a lot in those 2 years. We had, but we weren't as good as we thought we were, and we weren't terribly lucky in the games either. In the Argentina game that we won 3-1, and I think it was the second time that we'd beaten Argentina ever. I would say a neutral observer looking at that game would say Argentina had more chances, but we took our chances, and I scored a goal. It was very exciting. I can't tell you how excited I was. I threw my stick up in the air, made a right ass of myself. Unfortunately, 10 or 15 minutes later, my Olympics came to a crushing halt at the end of an Argentine field hockey stick, which caught my nose and busted, and my 2 eyes swelled up, and that was it for me. But all in all, still, it was a magical experience, and the team played, even though we didn't give ourselves enough credit, we played really, really well.
By the time the '84 games rolled around in Los Angeles, Plummer was a decorated veteran and one of the team's oldest players. He reflects on the differences and similarities between the major games.
You're playing against the best in the world, and that's daunting and exciting and nerve-wracking. And that feeling doesn't really change at all as you get older. Probably as you get older it gets a little bit harder because you seem to think about it more, worry about it more than you did when you were young. I mean, when you're younger you just seem to, not worry about anything. As you get older you seem to worry more. It's funny, I found myself more nervous and anxious in '84 than I was in '76. Finally, I suppose, and for me personally, the hardest part was that this was my last games for Canada, so I was retiring at the end of this, and that was going to be it for me. And it's hard to close the door on something like that. I found that psychologically difficult. A big part of this I haven't talked about is by then, 10 years in international hockey, a lot of that international community I felt I knew. The Australian guys I knew really well, the German guys I knew a bit, the Dutch guys, the Pakistanis, you name it, I knew a lot of those fellas, and that felt like I was part of this big international community. I was very sad to actually let that go as well, now that I think about it. But that was another big part of the experience for me, and a big difference from '76 where everything was just brand new.
And although his national team career had to come to an end eventually, Plummer still supports the community and gives back in a coaching capacity.
So right now I'm helping to coach the Merivale High School field hockey girls, and I totally love it. It's just so much fun. It is so much fun, and it doesn't feel like giving back, to be honest. It feels like they're giving me as much as anything I could be giving them. So I love being able to translate some of the things that I've learned along the way, and seeing them sort of take it in and use some of it that they feel they can use, and sort of ignore some of it that they feel they can't use. And it's a tremendous, it's a blast. It's totally fun.
A legendary national team player, an enthusiastic community supporter, Reg Plummer can't imagine his life without field hockey, and we can't imagine the game in Canada without him.
So it was field hockey that brought us together, and it's field hockey that gives us something to talk to about, but it's all those relationships that are so bound up in field hockey, I wouldn't know who I was if I didn't have, if I tried to imagine my life without field hockey and the field hockey community. It's a blank. I don't know what, I can't imagine it. Recently I was at the rowing club and they had one of their junior days or something, and it transported me back 30 years, and I'm thinking, oh my God, look at this. It's something to belong to, it's something to behold. It makes the heart feel good. I can't imagine a life without it.
Congratulations to Reg Plummer for his induction into the Field Hockey Canada Hall of Fame.